So I feel like there is a middle ground that evolution is true and there is evidence of God. I think to me, the organization of the cosmos, everything is so deliberately detailed, as if you look at a the NRG Stadium. If I were to say that, oh, yesterday it was gone, but now it's here today, you would tell me, wait, no, that's not right. It's been here. There's an intelligent mind that has made multiple intelligent minds have made this incredible stadium, and that for it just to appear out of nowhere is almost odd, and it's like impossible. There was an intelligent mind. People have put together and created it, and that's how I view the cosmos, especially with.
Well, I don't know why. So we can agree.
Mhm.
I just appealing to things we know are designed, like a stadium,
Right.
is like, yeah, I know that's designed, but we're talking about nature in general. So if there were no humans, I agree there would be no stadiums, not at least not here on Earth, right?
Right.
Okay. What would a universe look like if there wasn't a God?
Well, have you heard of the fine-tuning argument?
Yes.
Yes, that to me is well, and it's also scientifically based. I also want to make sure we got some middle ground. I'm a big proponent on science. I think science is the way we explain everything in the universe, and I think there's a misconception that science disproves God, but to me, I think science and God go hand in hand.
Well, I do not.
That's okay. Can you explain to me why that is?
Because science it is predicated on like methodological naturalism. God is supernatural. So God is not a working theory. There's no such thing as, well, this is my working theory that explains how God does things, because God's providence doesn't work through naturalism. So there is
Right.
no explanatory power in weighing this is what it would look like if God did it versus this is what it would look like if God didn't do it.
Right. And I understand that completely because God is more so outside of our dimension. You know what I mean? You can't really prove exactly like here is definitive God, here it is. More than anything.
Let me give you an example of why this is super problematic. Are you a young Earth creationist?
Can you explain what a young Earth creation is?
They believe the entire universe is 6,000 years old.
No, not at all.
Okay. Your God could have created the universe the way it looks now 6,000 years ago, though, right?
Mm-hmm. I can't answer that for you.
Well, he's all powerful.
Well, he could. I don't understand your argument here, sir.
I don't know how to word it any differently. Couldn't your God have created the universe 6,000 years ago, and he just created the heavens as vast as they are and filled the heavens with all the stuff that we see in them?
He could, but that doesn't really align with everything that's going on in the historical Earth and in the universe. So he technically could.
The young Earth creationists disagree, but the problem is, if God could have done that, then that's one possibility. But God also could have created the universe 14 billion years ago. So how do we actually tell the difference?
Okay, and so your argument more so towards God is proving that it's like you need tangible proof. This is God right here. No evidence is not enough. You need definitive proof.
If you're going to invoke miracles and magic and the way God does things, then all possible explanations are equally valid.
No, I'm not talking about. My basis is only things that we can actually see tangible. Nothing supernatural. I'm just trying to use what we can in this third dimension and what we can definitively understand here.
But God is supernatural.
Yes, but the supernatural God also implements here in the third dimension. Just as us humans, we're in the third dimension, we can implement things in the second dimension.
We'll have to do a different example. Do you think that when somebody is rushed to the hospital because they had a heart attack, do you think that when they get treatment by the doctors, it's nothing other than the doctors and their medicine and their machines that save that person's life?
Yes.
Do you believe that sometimes when people have heart attacks and are rushed to the hospital, that the doctors and their medicines and their machines absolutely were not going to save their life, but God miraculously saves them?
That is a definition of a miracle, something the supernatural. And could it happen? Maybe, yeah.
Okay. Do you
But
think
is
that
it
that
more
does happen
probable that
sometimes?
it's way more probable that the doctors, the humans, actually save their lives with the technology.
Sure. So, how would you tell the difference?
I guess when something that's impossible becomes possible, that's the difference, which is very rare, in my opinion. It's pretty rare.
Well, how do you determine that it was impossible?
Well, let's say, for instance, I don't know, let's say they had a heart attack and the doctors deem that the heart is absolutely catastrophic. There's no way it could be redeemed. Like even like the transplant's too late, and somehow, some way they get up and they're alive. That is, if scientifically the doctors can prove that okay, this dude is dead, but somehow comes alive. I'd say that is pretty supernatural, and that's in a sense a miracle.
Well, that sounds supernatural, but I'm not aware of any single uh, medical miracle, quote unquote, that's happened that people that actually went like that. People
Right,
say it was
and
a
I'm
miracle
not trying to
all the
argue
time,
that.
like when Damar
Yeah.
Hamlin like fucking died, like in the middle of that NFL game, and
Right,
they
right.
used CPR to keep the oxygen
Yeah, keep him
going, and then
alive.
eventually they got
Yes.
like at the ESPY Awards, his team, like the medical staff for the Buffalo Bills, won the Courage Award or something. I don't remember which award they won,
Right.
but they said it was thanks to a miracle of God. That I was like, wait, didn't you guys give him CPR? Don't you
Yeah,
guys have fancy degrees? And didn't he get medical treatment? So I was like, so how do we tell the difference? You can't tell the difference.
right.
So this
And
whole
then
thing where science and God work together, I don't think that science proves God doesn't exist in any way, but I don't think that science establishes any credibility that any type of God or any type of supernatural anything
awesome.
exists.
Yes. So then let me give you. Okay. So now I see what you're trying tying science and God to. Let me give you my viewpoint on where I tie science and God to. For me, it's mostly an intelligent design. That's basically me. I feel like when I venture more into science, that to me, it's as complex it is for that just to happen on accident out of nowhere. That to me is it doesn't make much sense because it's so predicated, so detailed, it's so complex that for that to happen an accident, it's almost like if you got
I
a
don't think anything happens on accident except for Globe Man here.
oh no,
So,
you can't say that to him. No, man.
Shut the fuck up,
Nah,
goddammit.
that's fucked up, man. Well, man, I don't think you were an accident.
My sister was. My parents already told me I was the planned one.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. But I just want to come in and say, for me, I just we can disagree on this, and that's completely okay. I think to me, just the way I view science is so complex, and for me, for that to be just an accident, just like if someone were to pocket text you the whole series of Harry Potter from front to back with not a single, like mistyped anything, that to me, for that to happen an accident, that's like as simple as like our DNA structure. You know
Yeah,
what
but
I mean?
I don't believe that anything happened on accident. I think that things happen because of physics and chemistry and biology, and God's not playing a role in any of that stuff. I don't think a miracle happens when it rains, but without rain, plant can't grow. I don't
Right.
think I don't think I don't think a miracle happens whenever a man yeets and skeets into a woman, but without that, we don't get the miracle of conception and the miracle of childbirth. So, literally, none of the steps are miracles, but then we have to invoke a miracle maker to make the whole thing be possible in the first place. It doesn't really make any sense to me. But my other question would be, what would a universe look like if God didn't exist? Why could a universe where God doesn't exist not have galaxies and stars and planets and even things that talk?
Well, I can scientifically, like regarding universe and all sort of stuff. Man, I would like to assume that without an intelligent creator, I feel like it would just be as chaotic the universe could be right now, it would be even more chaotic. Maybe the universe would already freeze up faster than it was, or probably would have expanded like too much to where nothing would exist, or collapse on itself due to the lack of stability within gravity. But on top of that, I think to me, I could answer it more philosophical with us humans. I think to me, without a God, it's hard to have a good moral compass. That to me is without God, we don't really have like
Okay.
a
Well,
what's good, what's definitely bad.
okay. I don't want to. I'm happy to talk about that
Right,
after
right.
we talk about the last thing. So, the universe, without God, the universe would collapse or like whatever. It's okay.
I
If that's
also
the
want to mention
case,
that to me is a like a I don't want to say like without God, more than anything is the intelligent construct. You know how like if the way gravity is in place with the
I,
fine tuning armor, if it was
I
more or
promise you,
less.
I know what you meant.
Okay, it's more. Okay, making sure. Okay, awesome.
So, in the like really early 20th century, when we were starting to discover how atoms are structured, we found out that there are electrons that orbit the atom. And we took all of the most advanced physics we had of the day and they applied it to that orbiting electron. And what they realized was all of the most advanced science in the world couldn't explain what's happening here because the science said, well, no, the electron should lose energy and then it would spiral into the nucleus of the atom, and then that would just make matter impossible to exist. Atoms, as we understand them, couldn't exist. So what people could have done at that point is said,
It was
yes,
God.
and it's because God
Yes,
prevents the
yes.
electron from doing that. But no, what
Right.
happened was we discovered new and even more advanced science that now does explain how that works. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I know that it is known. So when you
Yes.
say without God, the Big Bang or whatever would have made the universe do blank, I think you're doing the same thing. If it's not the same thing, then what you'd have to do is then explain to me, how does God make it all work if it can't work on its own?
Okay, so we're on agreement that God is something that's outside of the third dimension.
I suppose.
Yes, because if it couldn't really be involved, if by the way, this also, if it was in the third dimension, that would literally he wouldn't be able to, or it. By the way, he, it, she, it's anything because God is not. Just want to put that out there.
God does not have cock and balls. We agree.
Yes. You could if you want. I don't know, dude, but
He's all powerful.
In the fluid?
yeah, he could have a monster. You don't even know, dude. You just don't know. But but I think I see where you're going with. I would not say that is God. Like, oh, if we don't know something in science, that's God. I think, to me, the explanation of atoms, that is scientific. But the reason why it exists and the reason why the explanation exists is God. And that's something that, it's really hard to just, probably get that down in 10 minutes, but that's kind of how I view things. So I see what you mean, but to me, it's more not so. Okay, gravity exists because of God. No, gravity has its own math, has its own thing that is involved with that, and that explains why gravity is. But to me, is the reason why that math and all of that does exist was because of intelligent creation of that formula within itself that was happened in place before mathematics was able to solve it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it gets more like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. It does become more idea of metaphysical and all sort of other aspects. But
Sure.
I think
So this is just typically what we just kind of call an argument from ignorance or incredulity. Like what we don't know, we attribute God to being responsible for that. But
well, the
I
thing
don't.
is that
That's
I don't,
not
I don't
really.
believe
That's not
it comes
actually
out of
evidence.
ignorance because, like I mentioned before, everything is the science is so complex that the formation of stars and everything as well, there's constant themes of how like stars are made and relates to human life, and how sort of the the complexity of everything to me is like, my belief is that it's so complex, and not just I don't understand how it works. It's more so that the way it works is so complex and it's so smart and it's so detailed and so intricate that to me it's really hard to believe it's an accident. And that's just how it is for me.
I mean, there's nothing I could say to that I haven't already said.
But I think we're missing a comic. I feel like, yeah, I know you mentioned it comes out of ignorance, but what I want to hopefully you can understand and hopefully respect out of it is the fact that yes, the way atoms and all sorts of stuff you explained, yes, it's very scientific, and that part I do believe. But I feel like the complexity of science. Would you be able to explain why exactly that happened to exist? Like, okay, so this is how it's
Why
laid out.
science
This is
exists?
no. Let me indulge further so my
Very
question could be more clear for you. And to myself too. I feel like that question was not as clear. But let's say the example used of atoms, right, and electrons, and how science was able to figure it out more in date, and this and this and that, this and this and this is how that was made. Perfect. Can you explain to me where that explanation and that thing came from?
Well, yeah, I think you're asking me where did like science and math and all this stuff come from. Where I thought you were going was like, how can it be that these tools we developed explain the world to such a precise degree? And to me, that only sounds profound if you don't think about it, because it's like, really, the tools we invented for the purpose of describing nature and reality turn out to be extremely good at describing nature and reality. It's like, I really, I don't find that to be really surprising at all.
Mhm.
It's like, did you know words can describe themselves? Like, yeah, because that's words are used to describe things, anything. And so the fact that language contains grammar, well, it kind of sort of not, well, how do I want to say this? Like, obviously language contains grammar, but like yeah, like it's like we're acting like we discovered, oh, there's underlying grammatical structure in language. Like, no, we invented language to have that feature, and now we're just kind of meta aware of it in a sense, and it's actually not really all that deep to
Right.
me.
I
It ain't
understand
that
where you're
deep,
coming
bro.
from. Right. All right. Well, I don't want to take too much of everyone's time. Is there anyone requesting to join? I don't mind talking some more, but I don't want to keep people waiting or anything. If not, I don't mind keep talking.
I do got a pretty big
Yeah.
queue,
Okay.
so
All
I'll
right.
I'll
Well,
see what
anyways, I
they're up
really
to.
appreciate you doing the show. I feel like asking these questions and having discourse about it is extremely important.
I'm happy to announce that I can now offer signed copies of both of my books. This is because I've reopened my merch store where you can get your very own Spanky, t-shirt, and more. If you don't know, Rational Answers to Stupid Questions is a collection of responses to about 100 of the most common anti-scientific tropes. The book is meticulously detailed, it's been fact-checked by real scientists, and it's written in a clear and easy to understand way. Evolution, the Big Bang, creationism, flat Earth, all of that plus more is in there. Facts That Aren't True is a collection of over 150 commonly held beliefs that are not true. Each claim has a story behind it. You'll learn the history behind the claim, the science that disproves it, or partially supports it in some cases, and lots of side stories and tangents. Categories include the human body, history, religion, animals, nature, language, and a hodgepodge of miscellaneous facts that aren't true. So if you want to be equipped to handle the misinformation that you see me tackling here every day, get a copy of one or both of those books for yourself. Thank you.
It's like, why at this point aren't you just like a deist instead of a atheist?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. For me, it's because, so like, I'm not an analytical philosophy debate bro type of person. That's not where I got into my atheism from. I'm an empirical science dork, right? a giga alpha Chad science dork, right? Not a analytical philosophy beta bro. That's so we're different, right? We're built different. So for me, the reason I think deism, like I don't find it even remotely appealing. This is actually funny because I was thinking about this in the car, like literally yesterday. It's because it explains literally nothing. Because you take a universe with deism versus a universe with no God at all, and they're indistinguishable from each other. So, like, I'll give you a couple of examples. Have you heard of idealism?
I'm not like a philosophy bro, so I'm not like super well versed. If you could refresh my memory, because I've heard the word, I just don't know the exact term, like
So
definition.
it's like it's a like metaphysical philosophical interpretation within quantum mechanics. So it's this idea, and I'm gonna Google it so I can give you I don't want to misrepresent it, but it's the position that holds that reality is fundamentally mental, immaterial, or dependent on the mind, rather than being made up of matter existing indefinitely of thought. And so this is kind of like panpsychism to me as well. I don't really know what the difference between these two ideas is supposed to be, because based off that description, they're just they seem sort of one and the same. So the idealist would not argue really that, well, with our scientific models, we can describe the properties of, hold on, let me type something in real quick. I just want to get another source on here so I don't misrepresent what they're saying. So because the only context I've really heard idealism be talked about is like with quantum mechanics. So they think that there is no like real collapse of the wave function. They think that it's all just fundamentally mental and consciousness. And beyond that, I can't really say too much. So anyways, sorry for the ramble. But to me, and I have the same problem with panpsychism, is they don't really disagree with any of our scientific models or our mathematics or our equations that are describing the properties of things happening basically at every scale. They agree on that, and then they just say like, oh, and at the very bottom of that barrel, everything is fundamentally consciousness or whatever. And it's like, okay, but what does that explain differently about anything? And it explains nothing at all, because all the things we observe and test and measure and the properties of all the things we've ever looked at are we would agree 1-to-1 on all of them. And then it's almost kind of like then they just smuggle in this extra thing and be like, yeah, all the things you agree on and that you label, I'm attaching consciousness to that as well. And it's like, well, you just kind of smuggled something extra in there. And again, that's kind of the same problem I have with deism, because like if a deistic God exists, it created the universe, and that's the one miracle that ever happened apparently, and then everything else has been non-miraculous. Well, that's indistinguishable from a reality where no God exists. It's just that this deepest possible mystery that we can't even test or anything, there's this claim or belief, and you can't do anything with it. So for me, being the way I am, the way I like to think about things, if you can't give me something that's usable, I was going to say useful, but and that is what I mean, but by useful, I mean usable, then I just don't really care.
Yeah, I respect that. The only reason that like I really mention it, because I used to be like an atheist myself, and I kind of just switched over to deism just more for the more of like the philosophical stance against theists themselves, given that they always appear to appeal to these sort of arguments that indicate towards deistic God as opposed to like any theistic God, because then you have to like prove divine intervention in some capacity in order to connect the two. Um, and I just view like deism as like it's practical atheism, as in your lifestyle isn't really going to change much as separate from atheist, but I think it holds like a stronger position against like any theistic claims, given that like it's still like a God quote unquote belief. Like you don't have to like hold to worshiping or anything like that. um, but it's more for like disarming like a sort of antagonizing people that seem to have like they think they have like some sort of leverage when they invoke these sort of arguments or propositions that they can't substantiate, but because you don't have like a, I guess like that's why I said like it's the Spanky argument. Like whenever you bring that up, I find it like interesting because it's like you're invoking almost like a theistic figure just for the purposes of argumentation. But if that were the case, like why not just create like your own version, like Spankyism or something like that?
Yeah, I use it because it's just a bullshit. I think their metaphysical claims are all bullshit, so I invented my own that's identical. And like the one trick, so Spanky really isn't deistic, he is personal because I don't have it on me right now, but I do have a Spanky Bible. And so I just say that the truth is revealed to me through Spanky. And the all the prophecies of the Spanky Bible have come true, and they actually continue to come true into the future. So I do that just to purposely create. I don't think it's really a straw man. It's kind of a straw man because I'm not taking it super seriously, and there isn't all this lore attached to it. But fundamentally, it works in exactly the same way. And so I just do that to be like, my claim that you think is completely stupid is identical to yours qualitatively.
Right. And see, that's kind of like why I personally like accept the absurdity of deism itself, because it's like I understand that it's an absurd position given that you can't really like operationally do much with it in terms of like applying it within reality itself. But I think like for argumentation purposes, it's just a better position to disarm like what I think is the oppression that theism causes by invoking like these sort of ritualistic practices that are like outdated notions. And I think deism is more of a honest approach to this stuff, whereas like sure you can believe in God, that's fine, but you just have to kind of eat the bullet and understand that there's no way in hell that you're ever going to be able to like prove it right now, right? Like that's just not that's not a thing that can happen. But I think that it's more of like the purpose of unification by showing like the absurdity to others in a more like coherent position to them. Because I don't like for atheists or theists and atheists, like the relationship I see is that it's two sides to the same coin, um but it's not like either side is more correct than the other, right? Like I prefer theism, omnism, and agnosticism, given that those three I think are the most intellectually honest takes, depending on where you lean towards to. But as far as having disassembling like these sort of two dichotomies, false dichotomies that I think are taking over and causing like a sort of divide mentally, I think is sort of, I think personally like a very rash take, given that it's just going to cause discourse as history progresses, and it'll isolate like theists from helping or wanting to contribute into like the sciences to better understand the nature of reality and reality itself.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense, to be honest.
Like it's not like personally, it's not for me, but I get I get where you're coming from, basically.
Yeah, that's fine. Like I was just more curious because, like I told you, like honestly, if you created like Spankyism, I would like if you started selling the Spanky Bible, I would low key buy it, to be honest, just because I like
I
whenever you
could.
bring it up, it cracks me up.
I want to make like a really short version of it. I don't know how I would. I mean, I could just print them with my printer and sell little folded versions of them. I'd have to make it a little fancier than the current version, but I don't know.